In March of 2016, a Chinese national admitted to hacking the Department of Defense, or DoD, contractors. As a result, China was able to steal technical data related to transport and fighter jets. Just 9 months after the hack, China introduced its 5th-generation fighter FC-31. Many analysts believe the FC-31 mimics the USAF F-35 as a result of their cyber-espionage. That example is just another one of many that led up to one of the DoD's biggest announcements in 2020, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC. You see, CMMC is one of the biggest pushes by the DoD to enforce zero-trust architectures upon its entire web of contractors and subcontractors within the Defense Industrial Base, or DIB. That's right, it affects subcontractors as well. In a nutshell, CMMC requires that every DoD contractor follows a set of controls based on how much controlled and classified information, or CUI, they deal with. Each of these contractors needs to have a certified third-party assessor, or C3PAO, attest that they're following each control as well. If contractors don't achieve this certification, they won't win DoD bids listed with the requirement, and most contracts will contain the requirement by 2025. You see, CMMC trickles down the entire supply chain. That means that the small businesses that provide parts for a larger ecosystem of products will also have to achieve CMMC compliance. So if you're a small business, what I just said was very scary. But the good news is you can do this, you just need to know how. Hi everyone, I'm Matt from eTactics, and today I'm going to explain what small businesses need to know about CMMC. Before we get started though, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the button below. While you're down there, hit that alert bell icon next to it as well, so when we post new helpful content, you get notified. The first thing you need to know about CMMC as a small business is the regulation itself. Now, I went over it a little bit at the beginning of this video, but there's much more to it. CMMC will be the next iteration of cybersecurity compliance. The rollout approach for CMMC will be what's called a crawl, walk, run. As few as 15 contracts will contain CMMC requirements in fiscal year or FY 2021, but more and more solicitations over the next 5 years will contain CMMC requirements. All solicitations will have CMMC requirements by fiscal year 2025. But that doesn't mean that you should wait until 2025 to begin the process of becoming certified. Some solicitations may ask about certification plans. Preparation will vary based on the types of projects the contractor wants to handle. The second thing you need to know about CMMC as a small business is where you'll land. There are 5 levels of CMMC and they all build on one another. Basically, the more CUI you deal with, the higher level of certification you'll need to achieve. This is a good place to also mention that if you provide commercial off-the-shelf or COTS products or services to the DoD and do not receive or produce federal contract information or FCI, then CMMC will not apply to you. COTS products and services cannot deviate from what is available to non-government customers. But if you receive FCI, then you should plan to receive at least a Maturity Level 1 certification within CMMC. Likewise, if you receive CUI, then you should plan on receiving at least a Maturity Level 3 certification. The DoD expects 80% of the DIB to only need Maturity Level 1. Less than 1% need a certification beyond Maturity Level 3. That leaves roughly 50,000 contractors and subcontractors in need of Maturity Level 3 certifications. In other words, there's a good chance that you'll either need a Level 1 certification or a Level 3 certification as a small business. The third thing you need to know about CMMC as a small business is how assessments work. I mentioned the acronym C3PAO earlier in the video. To reiterate, it stands for Certified Third-Party Assessor Organization. They're the organization that will have to visit you, assess your organization's ecosystem, and attest to whether or not you meet CMMC's requirement. Assessors will look at 2 of 3 potential forms of evidence: examine, or reviewing assessment objectives, specifications, activities, etc. Interview, or discussions with individuals responsible for that practice, and test, or exercising assessment objectives, activities, or mechanism. Assessment of practices will result in 1 of 3 possible findings: met, or the evidence confirms the assessment goal; not met, or the evidence does not confirm the assessment goal; or not applicable, the process or practice does not apply. In other words, CMMC is a pass-fail certification. You cannot somewhat meet the requirements during your assessment. If you don't meet them 100% of the way, you won't get certified. The fourth thing you need to know about CMMC as a small business is a little more specific. It's to use a network enclave. The truth is, many small businesses have flat network architectures. This means all devices can access each other. Now, if sensitive information exists within a flat network, then all devices have access. This would mean all devices are within the scope of the NIST 800-171 controls, or CMMC. Most small businesses worry about the investment required for certifying their whole network. The potential solution to consider is segmenting the network. By separating the network, you can reduce the number of devices with access to data. The fewer devices with access, the smaller the scope of the assessment you'll have. The fifth and final thing you need to know about CMMC is to start preparing for it right now. Most contractors are already certifying that they comply with the FAR requirements. They should be able to achieve maturity level 1 without significant expense. They need to show habitual behavior that the practices are being performed. It must be clear that the practices have been in place for a significant amount of time, or most likely 6 months. Documentation isn't required at maturity level 1, which is good to know. Having documentation would serve to show that practices are habitual. The assessment guide indicates that documents would show compliance for each practice. Start preparation by going through the 17 practice requirements and gathering relevant documents from your organization. There are more than 50 objectives contained within the 17 practices. You can hire a service provider organization from the CMMC AB Marketplace to check if the evidence gathered is good enough. Although CMMC requirements will not enter into most contracts this year or next, still, the majority of the CMMC requirements already exist today. Preparing now will help show the habitual nature of the practices performed and instill its requirements into your culture, thus making your assessment a little bit easier. If you'd like to learn more about CMMC, reach out to eTactics. And you already made this far into the video, so you might as well like it, share it, and comment below. What are you waiting for? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.